Well, I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to Claggett Middle School. I know we have, looks like lots of new faces. My name is Paul Warzencroft. I am the principal here at Claggett Middle School. This is my 5th year here. Just let's see who's here tonight. Raise your hand if you are a parent of a current 5th grader. Okay. Raise your hand if you're a parent of a current 6th grader, 7th grader, 11th grader. Just checking. Yes. Okay, good. Yes. All right, good.
Wrong meeting.
So we wanted to bring everyone in and talk a little bit about what we as a school district have been talking about for the last 2 years, and that's teaming. So our team that is here tonight, my team here that's here tonight, including myself, we have 2 associate principals here in the building. One of whom is here tonight, that's John Taloni. He's over in the corner. We have a few teachers with us that make up part of our team that we've been talking about for the last 2 years, and that is Kevin Hensley, 6th grade science teacher, and Renee Kennedy, art teacher. And then our 2 school counselors are Kevin Miller in the corner and Wendy Drayle sitting up front here. So what is teaming? Many of you may know what teaming is already, but this is kind of our definition to what teaming is. Where we have a group of teachers, anywhere between 4 and 6 teachers, that all come together and work with one group of students. And in the building next year, we'll have several of those teams of teachers that work with a smaller group of students. It allows them to discuss students, allows them to talk about certain students and what they have in common, their strengths, their weaknesses, what's going on in their life, things that they notice that come up, and things that they have to address in class, things that they have to address in the hallways. So all those types of things are what a team of teachers do. A little bit of history. For those of you who may be new to Medina or don't have older children that may have been through the middle school when we did have teaming. It was a huge part of the Medina middle schools for a long time, and then we went through some reductions in staffing. We had to do away with teaming. Well, for the past 2 years, we've been talking about bringing it back, and we had a large committee that started back in the fall of 2018 and was part of the strategic plan. Aaron talks a lot about the strategic plan and following that strategic plan. So we started back in 2018, and the teaming committee was comprised of administrators, teachers, guidance counselors, that's not up there, and the curriculum department to talk about, well, what has changed in the past 10 years that we haven't been teaming? And what do we want teaming to look like in Medina in the future? So we wanted to develop this new face of teaming here at Claggett and at Root. So this new vision that we came up with, and we did a lot of things to come up with this vision. One of the first things we did was we visited several schools that had been teaming for a long time. Strongsville Middle School has done teaming for a long time. Olmsted Falls has kind of honed their teaming skills over the last, I think, 25 years or so. And there were several other schools that we visited, but these were the 2 schools that we liked the most. But we picked a few things from each of the schools that we liked, and we kind of started to develop our own vision of what teaming looks like, or what it will look like in 2020, 2021. Then after we visited some of those schools, we were able to bring in Jack Burke, Meyer. I don't know if any of you are educators in here, but does anyone know who Jack Burke, Meyer is? Has anyone seen him talk? Yes, he is very entertaining and very knowledgeable about middle school, specifically about middle school teaming. So he's a nationally known speaker that goes all over the country to talk about teaming. So we went and we were actually trained by him on how to successfully implement teaming. And we're following those specific steps and guidelines to do that. What also is not up here is that we have been talking as a building. Claggett has talked separately, Root has talked separately about what are the things that we want teaming to look like based on Jack Burke Meyer, based on the other schools that we have visited. How do we want it to look? And that's what we're going to share a lot of that with you tonight. So I'm going to hand it over here to a couple of our teachers that are going to talk a little bit about what it might look like for your students.
What you're looking at right now is kind of the reason that we went to teaming. Currently in a junior high model, your students coming here, they get a schedule. Everyone has a little bit different schedule. They have different teachers. It's kind of a random mix of things. Can't hear? Better now? Sorry, I don't talk into a microphone very often. So what we're looking at, we added additional courses. What we're looking for is really, for teachers and students alike, is to develop a larger sense of community. So we're working with more common kids between a common set of teachers, rather than, we're looking to build a sense of community. So what your teams are going to look like is you're going to have your 4 core subjects and 1 special ed teacher. So you have 5 teachers who would have all of the same group of students, and then maybe 100 to 150 kids. We would be able to have conversations about those students and kind of meet them kind of where they're at, figure out who needs what, and help those kids as best we can, and just develop those relationships with families and with the students that would kind of tie into the building and have more of a better sense of community. Communication between teachers and parents will hopefully increase. We're trying to make the building smaller, really, where you would have 4 or 5 teachers communicating with the same group of kids and not having, just a random mix of teachers. If I have a concern about a student currently, I have to go look and find whatever other 3 or 4 of the teachers that are in my grade level have that same student, figure out, is this kid doing the same thing in your class or my class, and try to problem solve that way, and it kind of slows things down. We will have an additional planning period for our teams to meet together 3 days a week, where we can bring up our concerns or rewards or just things that we need to acknowledge and deal with that group of students that we share.
So another thing that's great about teaming, hi, I'm Renee Kennedy, for those of you that didn't hear, art teacher here. I've been working at Claggett for 22 years, teaching for 25, so I was here back when Claggett had teaming and its full capacity, and then when we slowly kind of pared it back until we lost it all together. My 3 sons also went through Strongsville Middle Schools where they have teaming. Teaming is fantastic. If you've never had a child go through teaming, it's wonderful, because the community that's created, they're going to come in with something that's bigger than themselves already. They're going to belong to a team right from the beginning. And starting out with that group of common people that are there for your kids and working for the same goal for your kids to help them through academics, help them social emotional, help them have fun and learn how to go through this crazy time of middle school, because middle school is crazy. They are hormonal and they are changing daily. I mean, 6th graders here and then all of a sudden 8th graders here. And having a team where we're working together, one of the great things is you've all had the kid that comes home and it's like, I have 3 tests, I have 2 projects, and they're all due tomorrow. And I just heard we have a project and now I have to go to the store. Well, that's not true. But if you're working on a team, we can coordinate during our team plan and say, look, I've got this big test. Oh, I'm going to back my project off till maybe next week, and we're going to space these tests out. That's something we can do where we can coordinate, where now we're all spread out and we're kind of doing our own thing. You try to communicate, but this, we're meeting daily and talking about academics together, we're planning together, we're talking about the students together, and making choices that are best for these kids. Teaming is about what's best for kids. It's not what's best for us, it's not what's best for any other, it's for them, it's for them, and it really makes a huge difference. And I've seen over the years not having it, what a big difference it has made. Also, that consistency day to day. They know who they're with, they know the group that they're with, they know the teachers that they're with, they know the plan of the team, it makes a big difference. And it helps that transition from 5th grade up here to middle school, because they're coming into that group. They're learning the structure of the middle school kind of in a safe space, because they have this group of teachers that are together working with them. So it's not so scary of, come up here and I have this locker now and I have to go to this hall and I have to go to that hall. And this school, even though it's not that big, it seems ginormous to them when they get here. And their faces are like deers in headlights when these 6th graders come in. And I always look at them and say, don't worry, in about a week you're going to be running through these halls like you own the place. Trust me. And they're like, I can't find my locker and I don't know how to open a lock. And we're like, it's going to be okay. The team's going to help that. It's going to make that sense, because they have that team meetings right in the beginning where we all meet, and it's not, go here, okay, bye, we saw you for 20 minutes, go off here now go off here. They're working with that group. So teaming is going to be really, really great. As an accent teacher, the specials, unified arts, whatever you want to call us, extras, really awesome creative people, whatever you want to call us. We are not in the daily team plan with the academic teachers. Like Kevin spoke about having that 5 core teachers that they're going to see every day. They'll still rotate through our classes like they do now. In 6th grade, they rotate through their accent classes on a 9-week schedule. So they'll have art for 9 weeks, music for 9 weeks. That will continue. But there'll even be more opportunities in the 6th grade with those specials. And when they get to us, our team is our own team as well. So we communicate, and then we communicate easily with the team, because you'll know right away, well, what team are you on? And then I'll be able to say, oh, okay, I know what teachers to talk with. And we can make those plans together as well, seeing what's going on in those classes, or what's going on with the student. Hey, this student's not, something is a little bit off. Have you noticed that in your class? Or this student seems to be having trouble with this. Are you noticing that? And we can communicate with them too. So you have even a wider selection of people that are there for your kids too. And we see them in a whole different light than the academic teachers, because our classes are a little bit, with the sports and the art and the music, where it's a little bit different than sitting in the classroom doing their academics. Some of the kids are much more academic, and some of the kids are much more like me, a little goofy. And that's okay, because they're middle schoolers, and you're going to notice, if you haven't had a middle schooler yet, hold on. It's normal, they act weird, it's okay. They get through, they're supposed to, they're kids, they're supposed to, and they're going through this awkward phase. And we're here to help them. And we're all here because we love those weird, awkward stages of these kids. I mean, I've been teaching middle school for 25 years. That's a long time to be with crazy kids, but I love them. I love them. This is where I'm supposed to be. So the accent there is to support, but we also do other things like plan some bigger events, or at least in the past we have. We plan these bigger events with them, and we've had accent Olympics. We've had a career day. We have had Hooked on Fishing, Not on Drugs. We've had, which are bigger school-wide things that the accent team brings to the teams as well. And we also, the teams have team activities. We participate in their team activities when we can. So teaming is going to be a really great thing. Those of us that have been here before, had kids through it before, are really excited about this new vision. I've been through the training with Jack. I've been on the planning committee, and it's a really great thing that's coming here. I know sometimes it's kind of work. The word teaming, a lot of people don't understand what that means, and there's some misconceptions on it, but it's a really great thing for your kids. And I'm super excited that we're going to be bringing it back here to Claggett.
Okay, so my name is Wendy Drill. I'm one of the school counselors here at Claggett Middle School, along with Mr. Miller. And along with everything that Mrs. Kennedy and Mr. Hensley are saying, there is a lot of research that backs the social-emotional learning competencies with teaming. So a couple of things that I just wanted to mention. Students will improve in self-management, self-awareness, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. So these are all pieces of social-emotional learning that are going to be growing and building through the support of teaming, just like Mrs. Kennedy and Mr. Hensley were discussing. So Mr. Miller and I kind of wanted to go over the scheduling process with some of you. I know that 5th grade parents are here and it's new to them, so this is just a goofy slide for you to kind of see before we go into scheduling. How is it even possible to ruin someone's life 5 times in one day? This is one way that teaming is going to help benefit students in terms of social emotional learning. Okay, so the timeline for scheduling.
Okay, March 16th to the 20th, Mrs. Drale and myself will meet with the students in the cafeteria during their lunches. We will go through basically a PowerPoint with all the students, and then after the PowerPoint, all the students will receive a parent letter, and then with the parent letter, they'll also have a description of the classes and just all the courses that they're going to have. And that will come home to you guys during that week, and then following that,
So just so you guys know, when that presentation does occur, it will also be on Blackboard for you to review with your child. So during that time, make sure you kind of go over those classes and look at the forms with your students so they know a little bit about what they're going to be taking, especially those 5th graders, rising 6th graders. In April, the current 6th and 7th grade students are going to have the opportunity to schedule their courses. This year we're going to do it a little bit differently than we did in the past. Some of you might remember those forms, those gold sheets or blue sheets or green sheets coming home that you had to sign and the kids circled. Well, we're doing it a little bit different this year. We're planning to do a Google form. So scheduling will be electronic for our current 6th and 7th graders. They will have an opportunity in their history classes to take some time out. Probably only take about 15 minutes, and Mr. Miller and I will go around to help with this process. And they will go on their Google form and select their electives. This just sort of helps expedite that scheduling process for us. As far as the 5th graders go,
in 5th grade, Mrs. Drale and myself will go to the elementary buildings. We will do a presentation with all the students. They will have a PowerPoint, and then we will, each student will come home with paperwork similar to the 6th and 7th grade. The only option for 6th graders will be choosing their music. So they will have band, orchestra, or choir to choose from. If they do not choose band, orchestra, or choir, then they will have a study hall somewhere in their schedule.
and again, that presentation will also be on Blackboard for your reference, but please, for those parents of 5th graders, current 5th graders, rising 6th graders, please make sure you look for those forms to come home, because we do require parent signature for the music electives, specifically because some of those electives, well, all 3 music electives, band, orchestra, choir, have a fee associated with them, and of course they're going to have an instrument, so we want to make sure you guys are on board with that as well.
Yep, that's me. Thank you. Okay, I wanted to go through, I'll stand over here so I'm on video. I wanted to make sure that everyone knows some of the changes that you may see if you have a current 6th or 7th grader, or you had some older students who have gone through. These are the changes that we're going to implement for next year, and some of the opportunities that we're going to have for students. So one of the changes that comes along with teaming is we're adding an additional period to the day. So that allows for more electives. The start time and end time for the Claggett Day will not change, but we're fitting one more period in there that allows kids to take different things. So a couple different things. The way this chart is set up is we have the new requirements. So on the left you have Innovators and Makers, which is a Project Lead the Way course. That is 1 semester, and that's for all 6th graders. Now, as I move through these slides, you'll see that a lot of these slides are very similar, just in a different format. So you may be hearing these things over and over again, but that's how this chart is set up. Another class that we're going to offer for every single 6th grader is our Middle School 101. And this is a course that we are currently developing to help 6th grade students learn how to be middle schoolers. We'll talk about organization. We'll talk about lockers. We'll talk about how you study. We'll talk about how you interact with kids. We'll talk about conflict resolution. All those types of things we're going to talk about in that class to help 6th graders learn how to be middle schoolers. And that's 9 weeks. Another new requirement for 7th graders, all 7th graders will take a medical detectives class, which will be 1 semester. That is another Project Lead the Way course. That is exactly how it sounds, medical detectives. There's the definition around here somewhere. It sounds really exciting, so if you have a 6th grader now, you can go home and tell them that medical detectives, students investigate an outbreak of a mysterious toxin into, boy, sounds oddly familiar. Good thing this is next year, right? Endangering the health of a community. It's getting hot in here. Determine the source of the toxin and present their findings to help community leaders mitigate the situation. If that's not a pressing issue, I don't know what is. But that's for 7th graders next year. Foreign language. Every 8th grade student will take a foreign language. I'll talk a little bit about this more on one of the next couple slides. And that's for a full year. 6th graders will now have a semester of physical education. 7th and 8th graders will still have just 1 quarter, but 6th graders will have a semester. So this slide kind of represents things that were changing in the curriculum. You can see the new courses on the left and how long they are in the 2nd column, what grade in the 3rd column. And then in the 4th column, if they're replacing anything. So again, those of you who have 6th, 7th, or 8th graders currently in the building or have had them in the past, the Innovators and Makers class, the Project Lead the Way for 6th graders, that will take the place of our digital media class. So it's a lot of the same type of things. The Innovators and Makers, they're going to learn programming, they're going to learn physical computing, they're going to look at wearable safety technology, and creating an interactive public art display and more. So it's a lot of that technology-based, computer-based type thing that was in our digital media class that we currently have. Middle School 101 is a new course, Medical Detectives, new. French 1 is a new course. Again, I'll talk about that in a moment. And in 8th grade, so let me back up. Currently, our 6th and 7th graders all are in a math and a language arts class for 1.5 periods. It's something that we've been working on for the last 4 years, is extending our math and language arts classes so they can get more content, so they can focus more. Teachers can remediate students a little bit more with that time they have. But we haven't been able to do it to 8th grade until now. So next year, that's another big thing that we're focusing on, is that 8th graders will also have a period and a half in math and language arts. Again, very similar slide, a little bit different. The digital media is leaving, it's replaced by Innovators and Makers. Computer programming is also leaving. Again, that's being replaced by Innovators and Makers. It's the same type of course, but it's a semester long instead of a quarter long. Exploring foreign language, we will no longer have that course, or the Intro to Foreign Language. That course is going away, and it'll be replaced by our full year foreign language for 8th grade students. Okay, I've talked about it enough, and now it's time to give you a little bit more details on the foreign language for 8th graders. We will have really 4 different choices that your current 7th grader can choose for next year. They can choose to take a high school graded, high school level Spanish. It's the exact same course as they would take at the high school. They get 1 credit of Spanish. It goes on their transcript. It goes on their, it counts towards their GPA. They can do that. They can choose to take high school French. Goes on their GPA, goes on their transcript, they get a credit, all those types of things. Or, if they don't think they're quite up to snuff for Spanish or French, they can take what we're going to call Spanish 8, which will just be the first semester of Spanish, and they can take that, that content throughout the entire year. So it's a slower course for Spanish. They'll get the same content that the other students will get in a semester, but they'll have it the whole year. So it kind of draws it out and slows it down a little bit. That's the third choice. The fourth choice is the French 8, which will do the same thing with the French language.
Not for credit. Or not for credit.
Yes, thank you. And that's also not for credit. It does not go on a high school transcript. If they don't do so hot, if they're struggling, let's say in Spanish 8, when they go to high school, they can take Spanish 1 in high school. So they get to kind of try it again. Or they can choose something different. They could take sign language, they could take French, they could take Spanish, they could take Chinese. So that's kind of just a taste, a different option for them, but they do have to choose one of those 4 options.
I got a question though.
Yes?
Is my son already speaking other language take out or not?
It does not count. He still has to take one of those. Yes. We'll be trilingual then. All right. Kevin Miller, everyone.
So this chart shows the 6th grade requirements. The courses are listed on the left there. The length, semesters are 18 weeks, and then the periods, and then whether or not it's required. So ELA in math, Mr. Worzencroft explained, those are a period and a half. And then social studies and science are just normal periods. PE in 6th grade will be a semester long. And then Innovators and Makers is a semester long. Art is 9 weeks. Middle School 101 is 9 weeks. General Music is 9 weeks. And then those are all the required classes. And then the optional ones would be the band, choir, or orchestra.
Okay, so similarly, our 7th graders are going to be taking a full year of ELA and math, both of which are a block and a half or a period and a half long. So ELA and math combined is 3 periods. Then they'll have a period of social studies for a full year and a period of science for a full year. And all 7th grade students are going to be required to take health for a semester, just as they are this year. And they will also be required to take the class Medical Detectives, which is our new class this year for 7th graders, and that is also a semester long. Students in 7th grade will also be required to take art, PE, and music on a rotation. Each of those classes are 9-week classes. And as far as the music class goes, if your child elects to take band, choir, or orchestra, those are all full-year classes. And so those would be a full period all year round. If they don't take band, orchestra, or choir, then they would take the general music class, which is the 9-week class. And that would leave a little bit more opportunity for additional electives. For example, students could take a class called Famous Artists, which is a semester-long class. And they could also opt to take a psychology class, which is a semester-long class. Those are classes that we currently have here in the building, and a lot of students really, really love those classes and thrive in them. And students can also opt to take Guitar 1 and Guitar 2, which are both 9-week long classes. You can take either both Guitar 1 and Guitar 2 or just Guitar 1. Although students might elect to take guitar, they are also required to take general music in addition. Okay?
The 8th grade requirements would be pretty much the exact same as the 7th grade requirements, with the exception of the Spanish and the French. Everything else would be the same. The Project Lead the Way would be different, so it wouldn't be medical detectives. It would be a different version of the Project Lead the Way.
I have a question for the electives down at the bottom. So they can pick one for 1 year. So if they do band, that's kind of it. Can you pick more than one is my question.
No.
So if Gavin's in band, it's band for
So
the
it's
year.
band.
But if he's not in band, you can pick something one each, you can do 2 things, one each semester. is what
Yes.
I'm asking. Okay. I'm so sorry.
So the question was, if you sign up for band, is there going to be room in the schedule to fit everything else as far as the electives go? And
So what I typically do to answer that question is to start counting classes. So your child will have 8 classes and a lunch. So if we start counting classes, we can start at the top there. They'll have 1.5 periods of language arts, 1.5 periods of math. That's 3, right? So then they'll have to take social studies. That's another period. Science is another period. Spanish and French is another period. That's 6. Your project lead the way is a half, so it's a semester. That's 6.5. You have your art PE. That's 7. And then if you take a band, choir, or orchestra, that kind of fills out your schedule. And then you wouldn't have to take a music. So, correct, if you're in band, choir, orchestra, it really limits your opportunity to take some of these other electives.
Yeah, it's going to 7, so is it the same for 7th?
It's the same for 7th, yes. It's the same for all 3 of the grades, yes. There is, so the question was, is there an option for study hall? There is an option for study hall. But if you want your child to take some of these electives, that takes away the opportunity for a study hall. My preference for students is to be in a class and not a study hall. That is my goal, to get our study halls as small as possible and increase the opportunities for students. That's why we're doing this. So what I want you to tell your child when they come home and say, I need a study hall, is why don't you try psychology? Why don't you try choir? Try to get them into those things. This is the time to do it in middle school. Why not? I mean, you're not going to lose anything if you find out in 6th grade that you don't like choir. Don't wait till high school. Do it now. So, again, I would encourage you to talk to your kids about trying something new and getting into those electives. 1-to-1. Oh, is there another question? Yes. That's a good question. So the question was, if you add another period to the day and you don't lengthen the day, what gets lost in there? So the answer to that question is, we are shortening the class periods, but we wanted to maximize our class time. So what goes away is not lunch, right? All students need to have lunch, but we are eliminating recess. So that will, I hear a lot of cheers, I hear a lot of uh-ohs. I will tell you that recess is a fun time for kids, but it's also a time that is fairly unstructured, and sometimes I see lots of nodding, right? The source of drama sometimes. So we are maximizing our class time, and that's how we are not losing any time in the classroom. Currently, right now, our class periods are 47 minutes long. Next year, our class periods will be 45 minutes long. So we're losing 2 minutes in a 45-minute time frame, which is not much. Next question. No, lunch will be 30 minutes long. So each year we evaluate things like that, and the question was, are we going to assign seats at lunch tables? And I would say at the beginning of the year, yes, we will do the same thing at the beginning of the year. Any student that has issues with assigned seating or an issue with someone that's sitting across from them or next to them, we, number one, like to mediate. What I don't like to do is say, oh, you had an argument with her, move to that seat. Oh, you had an argument with that person? Okay, move to that seat. We run out of seats. So, and we run out of arguments. So actually, we never run out of arguments here. Never. So what we do is we like to mediate first. If that doesn't work within the lunchroom with teachers or aides or whomever, if that doesn't work, what I ask our aides, our lunchroom monitors to do is to let a guidance counselor know. Then I ask my guidance counselors to mediate that as well. If that still doesn't work, then we change seats. And then we start over. So that's how we like to do it in middle school, because students need help with conflict management. They'll come home every day and say, oh my God, my best friend hates me. She was talking about me, and she won't keep my name out of her mouth, and all these things they tell you, they tell us too. So our first goal is to mediate first and to help the students through those conflicts. Other questions? Yes?
If a student starts out in like the French 1 or the Spanish 1 that the high school credit is given and figures that it's too fast of a pace or it's not the right thing, do they have the option to move down into the Spanish 8 or the French 8 class? Like in the beginning of the year or something like that?
Yes. Yes, we will have some outlines. We're still discussing that about how long that time is going to be. But there is going to be an opportunity if a child says, I want to go for it, I want to really try it, and take a French 1 or a Spanish 1, that was the question, can they drop to a Spanish 8 or a French 8? The answer will be yes, and we'll outline that too. Yes? Great question. How do you determine who's on what team? So we will go through and we'll sit down, myself, the assistant principals, the school counselors, and we will determine who's on what team. We won't determine that until August, though. So that won't come out. It'll probably be something like your elementary class lists, and we'll put something out. Along those lines, too, new 6th grade parents for next year. We have a 6th grade orientation that happens typically 1 week before school starts. That's when 6th graders can come in. We will hand them their schedule. We will hand them their locker. That's a huge stressor, by the way, getting their lockers open and understanding how to work a combination. I keep walking away from that video. Here you go. So that's a huge stressor. So we will give them their lock, we will give them their team at that time, and we will give them their classes. And then we let them walk through the building and find their classes, and look at their lockers, and those types of things. Did that answer your question? For the most part, it will be random. It'll be random teams. Unless we hear from the 5th grade teachers or the 6th grade and 7th grade teachers, we'll tell the next class, hey, these two can't be together. If they cause problems with each other, yeah, we'll look at separating. Kind of like they do in the elementary schools where they don't put them in the same classes. So I will tell you that has not been determined yet. The question was, if they're on Team A in 6th grade, is that team going to stay together for the next year in 7th grade? And I will tell you, in the past, they didn't stay together? Okay. So I don't know those answers, and those are still things that we'll have to decide, but that will be for a year from now to decide those things.
Can I, piggybacking off of that, you're talking specifically the students, do the team of teachers move up? Like if they have, are they gonna have the same teacher for English, 6th, 7th, 8th grade?
No. So the question was, did the teachers move grades with the students? The answer is no. The teachers will stay in 6th grade, and the students may stay on the same team as they move to 7th grade, from 6th to 7th, but the teachers will stay in their grades.
But throughout the day, will that group of students sort of travel as a group too, so they will all have the same teachers?
Yes. So let me talk about that a little bit. So we have anywhere from 250 to 300 students per grade. So let's say, to make it easy, let's say we have 300 students coming into 6th grade next year. 150 of them will be on Team A, and 150 of them will be on Team B. So Team A, 150 kids will have the same math, language arts, social studies, and science teacher. Unless your child is in a gifted course. If your child is in a gifted math, per se, they will have a different math teacher, but they'll have the rest of the team, the rest of their teachers will be the same teachers on that team. Yes? We haven't talked about that, but the Spanish 8 will be similar to what they took in 7th grade in the past. Yes? So the question was, will you be with the same 25 kids in science and then go to the same 25 kids in history and then stay with the same 25 kids in language arts? The answer is no, most likely. What probably will happen is they will follow their language arts and math. So they probably will follow each other. That's how the master schedule will be set up. But their science and history will be different because when I'm taking history, he may be taking Project Lead the Way during the same period. So there's a lot more flexibility with that. Math and language arts, you have a strong possibility of being in the same 25 kids.
So I was picturing that, 25 kids. I don't know if everybody else was doing that, but basically it sounds like the kids are going to switch classes the same way they always did, and they're going to switch with a whole bunch of other kids, 150 of them. So it's not like they're going to stay with that 25 group the whole day.
Correct. They won't stay with the same 25 all day long. That might get ugly. Yes?
I guess it seems like that's a lot of kids, that 150 group, but when you're working with a team of teachers, we're looking for consistency. So if you're on the team that I'm on, we put, how we're going to put our name on our paper, that can be the same between our team. Like all the kids know what to expect when they're walking into a classroom, or like what happens with late work or tardy passes, or like all of those little things in a kid's day that can create just kind of chaos. We can eliminate a lot of those things and create consistency for the kids. Is the real benefit here, I guess, is what we're looking at. And it is a lot of kids, but we can have those things be the same rather than like currently, you come into my room, I might deal with late work one way, or putting or whatever it is, whatever little thing it is. Right now, your kid is going to 6 different teachers. Everybody has a little bit different way that they're doing things. And I mean, just think about that. What's the expectation when you walk into your first class, your second class, your third class? What was that teacher? What are they going to? How do they deal with whatever's going on in the room? That's kind of different right now. It's really random. But when we get to this teaming model, like during our team, we can sit down and say, like, here's what we're going to do with late work. If you miss 2 days of being sick, you get 2 days back. Or I'm not going to accept it. If you just didn't turn it on time, or maybe I'm going to take it for half credit. Like, we can have those conversations and create that consistent environment for your kids.
And Kevin, would you concur with Ms. Kennedy that you guys can do tests differently in your
Right, along with coordinating the class, the load of the work. Like I'm not getting a test and the kid has 3 tests on a day or projects like was talked about before.
Also the room proximity for the team. All the team teachers are all in one space. So they're not going from this side of the school to that side of the school. They're going across the hall or next door. So 150 kids moving. Some are coming down the hall to me because I'm in art, but most of them are going right across the hall or right next door. So they're not like shuffling through the 8th grade and the 7th grade. The 7th grade is in one spot, the 8th grade's in another, the 6th is in another, and they're in proximity with their team. They're only going off team if they're, like Mr. Warzencroft said, on a different math or a different language arts, or if they're coming to see one of their specials teachers. That would be the only time they'd be going away from their team rooms.
Thank you. More questions?
why do you think this method will improve academics?
Why will this improve academics? So some of the reasons that Mr. Hensley talked about are some of the reasons why I think it'll improve academics, because we'll have teachers being able to discuss their particular student and what their student is struggling with. You know, Johnny's not turning in homework. Why is he not turning in homework? The 4 core teachers can sit down and talk about Johnny and say, you know what, he's been coming in late, he's been doing these things, let's call Johnny's parent as these 4 teachers, or maybe Johnny's missing homework in language arts, math, but he's turning it in science. Why is he turning it in science? Let's figure out why that is. So those are the things that teachers can talk about to help each individual student and help them be more successful in the classroom.
It's a higher level of accountability for students.
Higher level of accountability for students is what Mr. Hensley said.
Interdisciplinary, Paul? Interdisciplinary connections?
So another thing that we talked about is having conversations among science teachers in general, having conversations among language arts teachers. So if we give them time to talk about language arts, then we hope that we can have higher standards, talk about data, talk about how we're going to change things, really talk about curriculum and what we need to do to make the kids successful. So there will be time for teachers to have those conversations. Yes? I can't hear you, hold on. So the question was, will this change how the students are learning within the classroom? Are they going to do more group learning, or will their grade be affected by a group as opposed to individually? And I would say no. It wouldn't change in teaming. A lot of the things that teachers are doing now in their classrooms, they will do next year. Yes? Yeah, so if your child has any type of extra, like speech therapy or IEP services, all of those things will still be incorporated into their normal day as they are this year. Any other questions about next year? Okay, we have one more piece of information, and that is one-to-one. We've been kind of staring at this slide for a while. Mr. Chalone, you want to talk a little bit about one-to-one and your kids getting Chromebooks next year?
Yeah, so I'm John Chalone. I'm one of the associate principals, and yeah, if you've been looking up here at the slide for the last 15 minutes, you can see that starting next year, your child is going to get a Chromebook. And the reason why they're getting a Chromebook is part of our strategic plan is to make our classes and turn our classrooms into a 21st century learning environment. And to do that, we feel that your kid needs a Chromebook in all of his classes. So starting in August, and we don't have a date yet, but it's probably going to be the week before school, we will distribute out Chromebooks to each one of your students. And there's going to be a lot more coming here in the next couple months about AUP, acceptable use policies on what what your son or daughter is going to need to do to successfully use their Chromebook. But just know that we're going to send those Chromebooks home. So they're going to bring them back and forth each day. We ask that your son or daughter charge it at home and be ready to go when they come to school. It's at the high school right now. It's doing well at the high school. You may think, well, geez, how's this going to work with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders? But I have talked to some middle schools that do have one-to-one, and they say it's great. There's not a lot of problems. The students are responsible. Most of them have phones or something like that anyway, so and they're responsible most of the time with those things. So just think of this as the 21st century textbook. We all receive textbooks. Your son or daughter's going to get a textbook that is a Chromebook. So again, more will be coming later, but just be ready in August, and we'll send those out.
Is it going to be like it is at the high school, where you are assigned it and then you have it for the 3 years?
Yes, so the question was, are you going to get assigned one Chromebook and you'll have that? Right now, they're still discussing that, but I think as of right now, the plan is to, in middle school, is give it back at the end of the year, and then we'll hold on to it over the summer and then redistribute it again. But yes, your son or daughter will be assigned a specific Chromebook in August. Yes?
So is there going to be an opportunity to purchase any kind of insurance plan?
Yeah, so the question was, is there going to be an insurance plan that you can purchase? Yes, there will. Obviously, it's not mandatory, but yes, you can do that. And unfortunately, as with any property of the school, like a textbook, if it's damaged, you are responsible for that, so there will be a fee associated with that. So yes, there will be a possibility to purchase insurance plan. Yes. And again, since this is early, but for the middle school, I'm kind of on the technology vision committee, and starting to kind of push this out here to middle school. So if you have any questions or anything like that, or anything pops in, you want to email me, call me, and I'll get back to you about it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for tonight?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, just wondering if the redistricting happens just for the building to turn 7A, will there still be TV? Just for 7A?
The question is, if redistricting happens, and if redistricting does occur, will Claggett be a 7-8, and will we still have teaming? I don't know any of those answers, but I would say that if this is 7-8, then I would strive and push to us to still have teaming here.
And the classes will all be on Blackboard guidance set, but will the descriptions do that you were reading off, because it sounded very interesting?
Yes.
They're all on Blackboard.
Yeah, we'll put all this on the website probably tomorrow morning. The PowerPoint will be ready. The course descriptions, I believe we're going to put those on at some point. Yes. So it'll all be on the website tomorrow morning.
The students' PowerPoints will be up there within the next 2 weeks, and that will be through the guidance page.
Yes.
With the extra time that's going into the class, there's kind of concern with students being breaks, so it's not like we're really going to have one break throughout the entire day. How is that aligning with the rest of the state? Is that just the district thing? The also question is, because you're not socializing skills, the free time, the reset the mind, et cetera, what is studies done, or why do you guys do this? What is the rest of the state saying about it?
So I'm not sure about the rest of the state, but there's no other middle school in Medina County that currently has recess. And there are very few in other counties that middle schools have recess. So I would say that we are finally aligning with other schools in the state, or at least in Medina, Cuyahoga, and Summit counties. Those are the three counties that I personally looked at to see if other schools have recess in the middle school. Okay, well, feel free to come on up if you have any other questions.
Thank you.